There's a law in the Torah. The Torah says, do not lie about your friend in the court of law. The Torah gives us a specific case called Eidim Zaymerman, and it gives us a specific punishment when the Eidim Zaymerman are over that law. And it says, Torah says, Vasisim like kasher zamam. We do to them like they tried to do. A quick case of Eidim Zaymerman would be if A is being accused of killing B. So C and D are the Eidim. C and D are coming and saying, A, we're testifying that you killed B on January 1st in New York City. Come E and F are saying, no, how can you, C and D, testify that on January 1st in New York City, A killed B? On January 1st, you were with us in the Bahamas. We believe the second pair, we believe E and F, and we would kill C and D the way that Ruvain would have been killed if he actually committed the murder. Right? Everyone got it? Fine. Our Mishnah gives us a case where the case is that two Eidim come and they're testifying that a guy is the son of a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. It means his father did an Avera. His father's not allowed to marry. His father's a Kayan, and his father's not allowed to marry a woman that got divorced or a woman that did Chalitza. Chalitza is when a girl, you have a couple, let's say Levi and Rachel, and Levi dies and they have no kids. Rachel can have relations with Levi's brother. If Rachel decides not to do so and wants to marry someone else, she spits in Levi's brother's shoe and she can go marry whoever she wants. So a Kayan's not allowed to marry a divorced lady or a woman that did Chalitza, and the kid would be a Chal. So two Eidim are coming and testifying that this kid is a Chal, which means that he's not allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So the Mishnah says that if we find these two Eidim Zaymerman, we don't make them Chalal, and we don't make them, the Mishnah says, Ein Ayrim Yasses at Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, Elo like Arbam, rather we give them 40 Malkas. The Gemara on the bottom of Beis Hamikdash Aleph explains why, because the Pasuk says, Vasisem Ulai Kasher Zamam, Ulai Below Izaro, and we know that if you make someone a Chal, all the future generations of that Chal would also be Chalam. And the Pasuk explicitly says, Ulai Below Izaro, which means that you can't do it to his kids. So comes the Gemara and asks, so why don't we just give it to him and not to his kids? That way you'll be fulfilling the fact that the Pasuk says Ulai Below Izaro. And, right, so comes the Gemara and answers, because then you're not fulfilling Kasher Zalman. Because if you just do it to him, we know that if their testimony would have been accurate and they actually would have made him a Chalal, then all of his kids would have been Chalal. But so if we just make them a Chalal and not their kids, then we're not fulfilling Kasher Zalman. So we're stuck in a paradox. So the Gemara concludes that you don't fulfill Vasis my Kasher Zalman, rather you get Malchus. The Gemara on Beis Hamikdash, Ua says, where do we know from the Torah that you get Malchus? We know that the Torah gives us a specific punishment of Vasisim like Kasher Zamam when in a case where you could fulfill it, but in this case of Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza where you can't fulfill it, how do we know? Where does the Mishnah know that you get Malchus? So comes Ua, and Ua answers, Mishum v'yitzdikus tzadik v'yishu esarasha v'haya im bein hakay sarasha. Ua answers, there's a pasuk, and he darshans from that pasuk that if you have A who's being accused of killing B, right? Back to our first case. So A didn't actually kill B, right? So A is a tzaddik, and A is being accused of being a rasha, right? Come C and D, which we think are tzaddikim, because why? They're testifying that a guy's a murderer, right? So in our eyes, we don't want to murder on the loose, so they're considered tzaddikim, and they're being marshia the tzaddik, right? Because A is really a tzaddik. Now come E and F, and they're reestablishing A as a tzaddik because they're testifying that their testimony is wrong. So they're reestablishing that A is a tzaddik, that C and D are Rishayim, and then comes the pasuk that says, "V'hayim bein hakay sarasha." And then in that case, they get Malchus. So that's where Ula runs it out from. Comes the Gemara and asks, why don't we learn it out from Lysaneh? We know that Eidim Zayman are over the law of Lysaneh, but we also know that there's a specific punishment by Eidim Zayman that's Vasisim like Kasher Zalman. So now that the punishment is out of the way, punishment's not in the picture, why don't we just revert back to the fact that they were over the law of Lysaneh? Let's give them Malchus because they were over that law. Comes the Gemara and answers, because it's a lav she'ein by ma'aseh, v'chol lav she'ein by ma'aseh ein like an olav. Because Laisan is a lav she'ein by ma'aseh, all they did was speak, and Beis Din decided to act on their words. So because Beis Din decided to act on their words, and they didn't actually do a ma'aseh, so we can't give them malchus. Okay. There's a Chakira in the Rishonim on how you can learn. Chakira means like difference, like they're arguing on how you learn this sugya. So there's an argument between the Ramban and the Meiri. The Meiri says Pashut Pshat. It's learned out from V'yitzdiku, like the Gemara says that the malchus is coming off of V'yitzdiku, off of a branch where you can't fulfill kasher zamam. So then you get malchus from V'yitzdiku. Comes the Ramban, and the Ramban says no. Yes, we have the pasuk of V'yitzdiku, but because we have that pasuk of V'yitzdiku, we apply that pasuk to the lav of Vaisana to tell us that in a case of Eidim Zaymin, you can get malchus, even though it's a lav she'ein by Maisa. The Ramban is saying that you take the pasuk of V'yitzdiku and you be megala, you reveal it to the lav of Vaisana to say that you can get malchus through the lav of Vaisana only in the case of Eidim Zaymin. Okay, so only in the case of Eidim. So if they just lied, the guy said, Reuven owes me $50, and Reuven didn't actually owe him $50, then you don't get malchus because of the law of Vaisana. We only say according to the Ramban, it's only in the case of Eidim Zaymin. So what's the lumdus? What's their machlekes like coming out to prove? According to the Ramban, he holds that malchus is not fulfilling kasher zamam. Why not? Because the only reason why you're getting malchus is because of the fact that you're over the lav of Vaisana, even though it's a lav she'ein by ma'aseh, because you're getting malchus straight up from a lav, the malchus has nothing to do with kasher zamam. Okay, according to the Meiri is holding that the malchus that you're getting from V'yitzdiku is fulfilling kasher zamam, because V'yitzdiku is branching off of kasher zamam to say that when you can't fulfill kasher zamam to a literal sense, like in the first case where they testify that A killed B and we could just murder them, right? So in this case, the Meiri is holding that the malchus is fulfilling kasher zamam.
The backup for kasher zamam.
Right.
And where's the Rambam?
And the Ramban is just saying that the malchus is coming strictly from the lav of Vaisana and being over the lav of
being for Losana, not
right.
kasher zamam.
So nothing to do with kasher zamam. So that's the difference in their argument. Now we're going to bring two nafkaminas, two practical differences on how they learn. The first nafkamina is like this. There's a Gemara in Chaburah that says that Eidim Zaymin don't need asra. Eidim Zaymin don't need warning. Why don't they need warning? Because just like they tried to get the guy killed without the guy actually getting warned, because if you're getting accused of doing something and you didn't actually do it, then for sure you didn't get warned for doing it. The Eidim are saying we warned this guy. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the story is that you didn't warn them, right? So just like if their testimony was true and they wouldn't have been caught lying, right? The guy would have been killed without warning. So too, we kill the Eidim Zayman without warning, meaning that the two Eidim don't need to be like, oh, if you guys go into court and lie about this guy, whatever it is that you're going to lie about, we'll kill you or do whatever punishment you're doing, right? They don't need that warning. So you could apply that to our case, and you could say that works according to the Meiri, because according to the Meiri, he holds that the malchus is coming off of kasher zamam. So if it's coming off of kasher zamam, then malchus, just like in any case where you're fulfilling kasher zamam, you don't need asra. So too, when they get malchus, because according to the Meiri, you're fulfilling kasher zamam, you also don't need asra. According to the Ramban's holding no, you're getting malchus because of Vaisana, and we know that kol lav shebatara you need asra. Every single lav in the Torah you need a warning for. So according to the Ramban, they should get a warning. So that's the first difference. And really, the Gemara in Chaburah actually asked that question, and the Gemara says, what about a case of ben Grisha ben Chutz and you can't fulfill kasher zamam? And the Gemara answers that there's a mishpat echad in all cases. Eidim Zaymin don't need asra. So then, how can the Ramban argue with the Gemara? The answer is, I don't really like this answer, but the answer is that he didn't have that girsa. So the Ramban didn't know that the Gemara said that, so he still had like this opinion. But yeah, moving on. The second naf, so it's not really nafkamina, right?
No, but the thing that Ramban is saying we can't accept it, like it's not acceptable.
Yeah, but we just want to know why he wrote that.
Yeah, we're trying
I'd
to.
love to see what knows that, but the more art, the more mishparecha.
Yeah.
Right.
We're
Okay.
saying the Ramban. I don't think the Ramban says in the first. I think we're
Right.
saying
We're saying that you're right. We don't know. Maybe
How about
the
tomorrow?
Ramban says something there. Like I don't know. But me and Perky.
Really?
Yeah.
That he had it to your son?
I'm,
No, the Ramban says, the Ramban learns the Gemara in Makar this way. So according to him, we would say that after we
Right.
about Asra, but the Gemara clearly says the word. The word is Mishparecha. Yeah, so the Ramban would know. Most of the Gemara, the Ramban wouldn't agree to it with the Meiri, and he would do that Asra.
Thank you, Perky. Okay, the second nafkamina is as follows. This is a little bit harder, so bear with me. I want you guys to get this. But the second nafkamina is like this. The din of a kohen marrying a chalitza is midirabanan. I'll explain soon why it's midirabanan. But the din of a kohen marrying a chalitza is midirabanan. Now, if a kohen's not allowed to marry a chalitza midirabanan, that means that this kid is a chal midirabanan. How can the Ramban and the Ritva have a question? They ask, how can the Mishnah come and say that? How can the Mishnah come and say that? How can the Mishnah come and say that in this case, if a kohen marries a chalitza, that you get malchus? I don't get it. The Edim are coming to testify that a guy was over a lav midarabanan. How can we now punish them from malchus midaraisa? That's not right. You can't get punished from a lav midaraisa if they only testify in midarabanan, right? You can. I'm sorry, not a lav. You can't get punished if the Edim Zayman are coming and testifying that this guy's father was only over a lav midarabanan and this guy is a chal midarabanan. How can we say now that we'll punish them from the deraisa if you hold like b'tztiku, right? Which we're going to see in a second. Because if you're holding that it's fulfilling kasher zama, so the Edom Zayman are coming and testifying that a guy was over allowed in derabanan, and now we're going to punish them in deraisa. That doesn't make sense. Right. Exactly. Right. So the Ramban and the Ritva answer. They say that really in our Mishnah, if two Edim come and they testify that a guy is a ben chalitza, we don't give them malchus. So why is it in there? It says it in the Mishnah. So why is it in there? Because Grusha and chalitza that a kohen's not allowed to marry are learned out from the same pasuk. And there's an extra vav in that pasuk, and the Rabbanan make an asmachta, which is, I'm not really so clear on this, but an asmachta is where the Rabbanan learn something from the Torah, and it's only considered with the Rabbanan, even though it's learned out from the Torah, because it's not like Mefresh. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's not.
It's like super unclear.
Yeah, whatever. I'm really not sure, but it is an asmachta, so it's considered Derabanan. So that's why the Mishnah has it in there. So according to the Ramban and the Ritva, they hold that the Mishnah that really in the case of chalitza you don't get malchus. Comes to, but you get nothing. You get nothing. Comes the Rambam, and the Rambam is first straight up. The Rambam is saying these are the cases where you would get malchus even if you're not testifying, even if you're not coming to testify that they should get malchus, right? And it says Kitzadi Idu al Kain Shu Chal. If they're testifying on a Kain that he's a Chal, Kigain Shehi Idu v'Amru b'Faneinu Niskar Sheimai, and they're testifying that in front of us his mother got divorced, or no Chaltza b'Makan Klani beyond Klani, or she did Chalitza in a random place at a random time, or like in this case you still get malchus. So comes the Rambam, and the Rambam is saying no. The Rambam is arguing on the Ramban and the Ritva, and saying that even though it's derabanan, you still get malchus. Comes Rabbi Kiva Eger and he asks, I don't understand, how can the Ramban and the Ritva hold that we take it out? They were straight up over the law of Loisana. They straight up the guy lied in court. So what? We can't give them malchus. Because if you're fulfilling kasher zam, but let's just give them malchus because of Loisana. So from Rabbi Kiva's question, we could darshan, we could understand that according to the Ramban and the Ritva, they're holding that the Malkus by V'tzdiku, the Malkus by Chalitza is coming as V'tzdiku, and because it's coming as V'tzdiku, and the Malkus is fulfilling Kasher Zamam, so we can't give them Malkus if they only testify that a guy was ever allowed in Derabanan, and we give them Malkus Midaraisa. And the Rambam is coming and saying, no, it's learned out from Loisana, that's why you still get Malkus. Now, yeah.
Sorry, get it clear. You're saying that if you hold that the Malchus comes from the speaker, because there's two things you're doing wrong. Number one, they're trying to get A punished, and number two, they're lying.
But on a Torah's
So
perspective,
if you're coming from Vitzdiku, so it's all about what you tried doing. So if it's Derabanan, that's not called doing anything, because it's Derabanan, you didn't do anything. But if you're holding that the Malchus comes because you lied, so even if you're lying about it, Derabanan, you still lied.
right, you still lied, so you get Malkus Midaraisa because you were over allowed Midaraisa, Loisana, right? You got to understand? Okay. So if you were following, you would have just heard that they're from Loisana and the Meiri's holding is coming out from Vitzdiku. So how can the Ramban and the Ritva hold that the Malkus in this Chalitza case is coming out of Vitzdiku? We know that the Ramban holds that it's coming out from Loisana. So there's a steer in the Ramban. Understand? There's a steer in the Ramban. In this case, the Ramban and the Ritva say that you don't get Malkus in the case of Chalitza. Why don't you get Malkus? Because it's coming out from Vitzdiku. How can the Ramban hold that the Malkus is coming out from Vitzdiku? The Ramban himself holds that the Malkus comes from Loisana, like we learned a couple steps back. So there's a steer in the Ramban, because in this case, the Ramban just said that Malkus comes from Vitzdiku, that's why we can't give it by Chalutza. But we know that the Ramban holds that that the Malkus by Eidim Zayman, when you can't fulfill Kasher Zamam, like in this case of Chalitza, should come out of Loisana. So there's a steer in the Ramban, right?
Straight up saying opposing, like.
Yeah, he's basically he's saying two completely opposite things. Okay, so there's a Gemara in Chaburah that's before I get into the Gemara, there's a din in the Torah that says that if you kidnap someone and you sell him, then you get Yuchayv Misa based in Shamata. Everything we're talking about down here, not in God's eyes. Everything in based in. Okay, you get killed. So, and the din is that if you kidnap a guy and you don't sell him, you get nothing. Why don't you get nothing? Because we say that there's two stealing. There's lois signav that goes for kidnapping someone, and there's lois signav that goes for stealing. We say that we can't take the azara, we can't take the warning in the Torah that don't steal, don't kidnap someone, to apply it to when he sells it, he gets killed, and if he doesn't sell it, he gets malchus. So because we can't take that lois signav and we apply it to death and to malchus, so we say that only by death do you get punished. Only if you sell it you get punished by death, but if you don't sell it you get nothing. So azara is when the Torah specifically brings out right a lav and it tells you like don't do it. So the azara there's two azaras. There's lois signav by a person, like kidnapping, and there's lois signav by stealing. So you can't apply the death penalty and the malchus from one azara lois signav. Yeah, I think so. I hope I'm. Is that right? Okay. Fine. So the azara. So we can't. So we say that if he doesn't sell it, if he doesn't sell the person, then he gets nothing. So if two Eidim come and testify that, let's say A kidnapped B, and they were found Zaymimin, right? You know how that works, right? So we say that the Zaymimin get nothing. The Eidim Zaymimin get nothing. So you'll ask, okay, so why did if the guy would have gotten nothing, why would they ever testify, right? If you're testifying that this guy kidnapped and didn't sell, and so he gets no punishment, so why would they ever testify? So it's no question. But obviously, if the Gemara says it, so there's a reason, because the Gemara is not going to give us a case that makes absolutely no sense. So the Gemara gives us a case in Ksubas where a guy is coming and they're testifying that he kidnapped but didn't sell, so the Eidim Zayman get nothing. Comes the Ramban in that Gemara and he asks, I don't understand. The Ramban, not the Ramban. Ramban says, I don't understand. I hold, right, me personally, like the Ramban, that they should get malchus because of Loisana. So in this case, yes, I understand that we can't punish them because if we're holding Vasisim like Kasher Zamam, then they actually try to do nothing to the guy by testifying. So too, they'll get nothing, right? But according to me, I hold that they should get malchus from being over the law of Loisana. They straight up went into court and they lied, right? So they should get malchus. So the Gemara makes no sense going to the Ramban. So the Ramban's answer is going to answer.
What's his question? Because I thought you only get malchus if you can't do kasher zamim.
Right, and you can't do kasher zamim in that case. There's no
Here,
kasher
kasher
zamim to
zamim
give.
is nothing.
I hear what you're saying.
It's not like you can't do kasher zamim because like Leza is our prevents you from doing what you should.
Right. You're saying I'm not sure.
Doing nothing equals not. They have to get punished.
Yeah, I guess that's considered not. Maybe it says like maybe there's exact details, but I'm not sure. But good question. Fine.
He asked the question.
Right. Fine. So comes the Ramban, and the Ramban answers. He says that in order for you to get punished through the law of Loisane by a case of Edom Zerman, you actually have to do something bad to the guy. On Beis Din Shomata, when they're coming and they're testifying that he stole but didn't sell it, right? In God's eyes, he was already over the law. He was already over an Avera, so it doesn't matter. We're not talking about in Hashem's eyes. In Beis Din Shomata, down here, by their testimony, if their testimony would have gone through and they wouldn't have been Edom Zayman, then nothing would have happened to the guy. He wouldn't have gotten punished in any way because we know that you can't give him malchus because the Azara voicing them is going to if he sells it, right? So in this case, because their testimony isn't actually causing anything bad to happen to the guy they're testifying on, the Ramban is saying that the malchus coming from Loisane, you need to have done something bad to the guy. So in the case, let's go back to Chalitza. In the case of Chalitza and in the case of stealing, by them testifying that he's, let's say, a chalo, nothing bad is happening to the guy on his Torah's perspective. We're talking about the Torah's perspective, right? Torah's perspective, but down here. But in Beis Din Shomata, in the Torah's perspective, nothing bad actually happened to the guy. So according to the Ramban, he's holding that in order for you to get malchus from being over the law of Loisana, in the case of Edom Zayin, when you can't fulfill kasher zamam, then you need to have something bad happen to the guy. Rav Shmuel, I forgot his last name, but comes Rav Shmuel and he gives a proof to the Ramban. He says like this. He says, the pasuk could have said, Loisana eit shaker, don't lie about your friend. But the Torah, Loisana eit shaker, don't lie in court. But the Torah says, Loisana bireyecha eit shaker. The Torah adds an extra word, bireyecha, which means about your friend. The testimony that the Edom are saying has to actually cause tsar, something bad has to happen to your friend by you testimony. So that extra word in the pasuk of Loisana bireyecha eit shaker is coming to teach us that you need something bad to actually happen to the guy. So, quick recap: the Rambam and the Ramban are agreeing. They both agree that the Malchus is coming out of Loisane, but the Ramban is saying that extra word in Bereacha means to tell us that it's something bad has to happen to him. And the Rambam is saying that even in the case of Chalitza, or the stealing case, where nothing bad is actually happening to the guy, we can still punish him through Loisana. So the Ramban and the Rambam are agreeing. They're just saying that in a specific case where nothing bad happens to them, they argue. And the Ritva and the Meiri agree. They hold that it's V'yitzdiku. And yeah, that's it.